would revert to this particular story, but for now, let's cross over to the headquarters of NAGRAT because the association is addressing the interdiction of the headmistress of the WAS Senior High School. Let's cross over now.
And then by extension, the government of Ghana will say they are not aware. We have schools, names of which I don't want to mention, that collect money from parents, or parents mobilizing themselves to contribute money for the upkeep of the schools. And we have ministers and government officials whose children attend those schools and they contribute to the payment of these monies. What is the reason for this recent development in our schools? Resources that are supposed to be sent to the schools by central government are not forthcoming. The resources are not reaching the schools. And we are all concentrating on feeding. Feeding is only one cost item in a senior high school. We have recurrent expenditure to do with repair and replacement of school furniture, broken infrastructure, electricity bills, water bills, the provision of sanitary materials such as detergents and so on and so forth to keep schools running. We also have the need to provide teaching and learning materials to ensure that the purpose for which students come to school is fulfilled. When parents visit the schools, school authorities open up the realities of the school to the parents, and responsible parents begin to gather themselves through the leadership of the PTA to contribute towards the provision of some of these needs. Let me also tell you that there are schools that parents contribute towards feeding, to augment the feeding situation in the school. It is a common practice all over Ghana these days. As I speak to you, a number of senior high schools on postpaid have been disconnected by the ECG. As I speak to you, schools regularly have intermittent power outages as a result of shortage of units on their prepaid. Government is in arrears several months and is not paying these amount of monies for the schools to be able to run. Therefore, the situation as we find ourselves is stemming from the fact that government is not fulfilling its responsibilities of sending adequate resources to the schools. And the parents have come in to fill the gap by mobilizing themselves and contributing to the welfare of the schools. There are schools that parents have mobilized themselves to contribute money towards the welfare of the teachers or to motivate the teachers in these times that final exams are being written. Private classes in schools are going on because the distorted school term and the semester is created an avenue where parents want their children to make up for lost time as a result of the distorted school calendar that we are experiencing. And I'll be very surprised that the government of Ghana is not using its security agencies to identify these problems and report same to it so that they find solution to the problem. We should all stop burying our heads in the sun like an ostrich to pretend that everything in the schools are rosy. Therefore, when you just identify the case of only one school, due to the fact that a parent goes to sit on an FM radio station to create the impression that parents are being forced, and as a result of that, the head of the school is interdicted, you are not solving the problem. You are just isolating one person and just picking that person as a scapegoat. The problem is bigger than West Africa Senior High School. The problem is distributed nationwide, and we think that it is absolutely wrong and unacceptable for heads of schools to be identified individually in the case that we are talking about. Government of Ghana, there is a need for us to sit down with stakeholders to review the free senior high schools. Our schools are deteriorating very fast. There is an upsurge of private senior high schools in this country because they are beginning to be answers to the fact that Our free senior high schools are not providing what it's supposed to provide. We plead with government for government to take the most pragmatic decision in the interest of education. We also call on the Ghana Education Service to immediately reinstate the headmistress of West Africa Senior High School and any other headmistress or headmaster in similar situation. Thank you very much. If my national officers who want to contribute, they are all school teachers. They are at liberty to make a contribution, please. Or we can take some questions from the media. Yeah.
I am in the case of the WAS incident,
yeah,
students who defaulted were asked to sleep on the floor.
Were asked to sleep on the floor,
yes.
And we have evidence of that.
Students
that was the you see. I listened
to our morning show.
Yeah.
Post
Mm-hmm.
on Adonai.
Yeah.
If teacher motivation fee is not forthcoming, must the students be subjected to this torture?
We need to investigate this. But I can assure you, I listened to that interview on Adom FM. The parent was exaggerating the situation. Let that parent present him or herself. Let us go to the school and authenticate this. I can assure you, if that be the case, it's an assault. And it violates the rules of Ghana Education Service. But why will a headmaster or a headmistress ask students to sleep on the floor just because they have not paid motivation? I have never heard this before. I have never heard this anywhere before. And when I also interrogated the charges leveled against the headmistress, this aspect was not part of the charges. So I'm even surprised hearing it for the first time. But you know, the proverbial Ghanaian will have to spice his or her story for it to be accepted by people.
The case of resources not forthcoming, it's been there from 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always it's been talk from teacher unions, we take action, we take action. What action are you going to take so that government see the need to address this peculiar challenge confronting the schools?
Well, the action is taking itself. That's the situation we are seeing. But let me ask the question. Who should take action more? The parent or the teacher? The parent or the teacher? Can you cry more than the bereaved? The parents who are supposed to take action for government to respond are mobilizing themselves to make contribution towards the schools. The parents are levying themselves. And you see, I'm surprised because just carry out some media investigation. Almost every school in this country, parents are contributing, and we know it. Some schools, parents are contributing 500 Ghana cedis.
Some are paying 1,500.
Some are paying 1,500. I know a minister whose child is in a school in Cape Coast, and he pays the highest. We all know these things are good. And when they are paid, if you say the mode of collection is illegal, what about the mode of receiving? Parents contribute money, and when they present it to the school, the law says the school should make sure that every donation to the school should be receipted. That is the law. So the schools collect these monies into the school account, and it is recorded as such for the betterment of the school. So if monies were coming from government, if resources were adequately being paid for by government, why will we have the need for parents to mobilize themselves to contribute money towards the welfare of the school? And now the monies that are being collected by parents themselves is far higher than the former PTA dues. far, far higher than the former PTA dues. I have some national officers here who are parents, whose children are students in the senior high school, and they are contributing. They are sitting here with us. So we are not manufacturing phantom stories, but these are truths and realities. And the government should ask itself, why have we arrived at this situation? It's because resources are not adequately being sent to the schools. Well, it is the position of NAGRAT, and I'll summarize it. It is the position of NAGRAT that isolating and scapegoating one person to address a problem that is of a national nature, such as parents mobilizing themselves to contribute money to augment the upkeep of schools, which is a national problem now, because a lot of schools are having situations where the PAs, I can't call it PTA, the parent associations, through the ingenuity of the leadership, that is the president of the parents associations, are mobilizing themselves, encouraging themselves to contribute monies towards the upkeep of the school. And why have we arrived at this situation? Schools have to pay electricity bills, monies that are not forthcoming from government. They have to pay water bills. And as we speak, we have a number of senior high schools that have been disconnected by ECG. Those on postpaid. As for those on prepaid, of course, when your prepaid is consumed, the lights go off. And we have cases where schools have remained in darkness. We have cases where the heads of the schools had to send phone calls to well-to-do parents to contribute towards the purchase of prepaid meters in the schools. That is number one. Running a school is not only feeding in the school. Recurrent expenditure such as repairs, broken tables, broken desks, broken windows and doors, replacement of mosquito nets, the purchase of detergents in our washrooms and so on and so forth, to ensure that the hygiene of the students are ensured, are all expenses that the schools will have to undertake on regular basis. And these contributions are money sometimes parents come together to contribute so that the schools get running. Now, when it comes to test and examination, the purchase of A4 sheets, the running of those A4 sheets by way of printing questions and answer sheets for students to write exams. There are schools in this country that write about 2 or 3 mock exams before the final exam is held. End of semester exams. And when these resources are not forthcoming from government, and the parents want their students to be well prepared before the exams, the parents are encouraged to make contribution. Let us not worry whether the encouragement is coming from the head of school or from the parents. The head of school exposes the problems to the parents, and the parents are engineered to make contributions. That is even what is keeping most of the schools running up to today. And I think these heads of schools should be encouraged and congratulated for keeping the schools running in an atmosphere of lack of resources. In the case of West Africa Senior High School, it is parents themselves, through the ingenuity of the president of the PTA, that identify problems in the school and then they decide to levy themselves. The only problem for the investigation that I have carried is that it is the assistant headmaster who gave his Momo number to be the conduit through which the monies are paid. The investigation should rather go into what is the money collected used for. Is it used for the consumption of an individual, or it is for the purpose that will enhance the education of the students? If it's for the purpose that will enhance the education of the student, it tells you that there is government supply deficit that created the vacuum for the need for these monies to be collected to fill that deficit. So the Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, and the government should look into itself, investigate properly, and see whether we are running the senior high schools the way they are supposed to be run. Why are we having upsurge of private schools in and around urban and peri-urban areas? Because parents want certainty. Parents want definite timetable for the school of their children. So they are sending some of their children to some of these private schools so that they know that within 3 years they get the certificates that they want and have peace of mind. So we have a problem in our senior high schools in this country. Yes, we are calling for the reinstatement of the headmistress of West Africa Secondary School, because the problem is bigger than the incident that occurred in West Africa Senior High School.
So, when you speak to the Ghana Education Service,
I have not spoken to the...
I'm making a point. When you speak to the Ghana Education Service, their point is that any collection done in any senior high school should first of all be endorsed or approved by the JS.
Yes.
That's approval done based on your independent investigation.
Yeah.
So that's from the NAGRAT headquarters here in the capital, Accra. Now let's go on to the phone lines and speak to the public relations officer of the GES, Cassandra Chum. I'm grateful to you for joining us here. The NAGRAT is raising a lot of issues about how you've, reacted to the development coming from the West Africa Senior High School. They are asking you to reinstate the headmistress. What's your response?
Thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners as well. That can only be done after we are done with the investigations and then we know the outcome. The findings would come to us at the headquarters, and then where there is a need for us to get a GS Council approval, we'll do so. Of course, when we do, after the investigations and it proves otherwise, or probably whatever that we initially established is not confirmed, then why not? We did things for some other schools that we interdicted, before we interdicted, we established a prima facie against them per the allegations that we received. And so we have to finish with the investigation. But for us, let me establish that West Africa Senior High School headmistress was interdicted because of the allegations that we received concerning the levies that she was charging in the school. We as Ghana Education Service do not have any problem with parents' associations coming together to contribute money. What we have a problem with is the fact that if you, when the monies are made compulsory, when the levies are made compulsory, that across board all of you should pay this amount of money, and if you do not pay, in the case of us, they were paying 100 cedis for teacher motivation. Teacher motivation is being paid by government. It is part of the CSHS package. However, if parents want to even add on so that the teachers get that extra motivation, that is fine. But if you make it compulsory that if you do not pay, then for senior high schools, they will not be, their clearance forms will not be signed, and so you are compelled to. That is what we have a problem with. Parents can contribute, but it shouldn't affect the students in any way. The students must enjoy the teaching and learning, whatever that he or she is enjoying in the school, without any interference. West Africa Senior High School, apart from the teachers' motivation, they are also paying 50 cedis for parent support fees. And if you do not pay, again, your clearance will not be signed, even if you finish with your last paper. And we all know back in the day, you need everything. And your clearance form must be signed. All departments must clear you before you can leave. So why should that be so? So let me put on record that we do not have any problem with parents coming together. West Africa, again, the initial investigation before she was interdicted, the money was going to the school account. The mobile number that was put out there was for the assistant head. If parents are putting together, collecting money or want to raise some funds to support the school, whatever, should it go through an assistant account, Momo account? Should it go through the school's account? We know that a number of parents are helping in a number of schools. We have not said anything. In fact, the allegations that we received, it wasn't only for us. We had several complaints from other schools too, but we realized that it was the parents that were contributing voluntarily. And it hasn't been mandatory. There wasn't any condition that if you do not pay, this and this would happen. But the case of us was different. And so for us to be able to have a clean investigation, we said then the head must be interdicted. We set aside, then we have the investigation done. After, if he's exonerated, why not to be reinstated?
So what it is that your preliminary investigations prove to the fact that if you are not able to pay those levies, you are penalized for it.
Our preliminary investigation, yes, established that, yes, indeed, they were paying money. Yes, indeed, the monies that they said they were paying teacher motivations and SHS support, whatever. Yes, we established that as well. And again, we established that the monies were going through the senior assistants of the school and then going through the school, ultimately to the school account. And yes, if they do not pay the amount of money, their procurement forms will not be signed. And so that was the initial fact that we established, and that is how come we, based on that, we interdict the head.
Okay, so it is not, you didn't find that if you don't pay, a student is made to lie on the floor. You didn't find that.
So maybe that would come up in the investigation, but what we established, the fact that you would not be cleared.
Okay.
So
but whatever is happening is because you, the managers of the schools, have created an avenue for the headmasters and headmistresses to then be levying the student for these monies.
In what sense, my brother? Parents contributing is not a new thing. Back in the day, I mean, it's always been. Our elders would tell you, parents have always, one way or the other, all students, one way or the other, contribute. We have philanthropists coming in to help the schools. You know, a number of support from diverse, they all come in to support the schools, you know. So it is not about that there's a gap or probably there's a problem. That is why parents are contributing. They can always help. I mean, I always say the government cannot do it all. In a way, we all have one or two. So if voluntarily they are doing it, fine, it is allowed, it's accepted. What we do not want is a compulsory base and letting all of them. Whatever challenge that they also have, we also have the avenue. We engage the child every now and then. The executives do come to us at the headquarters. They put the lay before us their challenges. What we can resolve, we do with them. What we cannot, when it comes to funds, infrastructure issue and all of that, we also, talk to us, forward to the ministry, you know. So we have been working towards whatever challenges that they are facing, the ones that we can, we also send to the ministry, just to ensure that, we have the schools running effectively and efficiently.
But we all know that the feeding challenges confronting some of the schools are real, and that's why parents are contributing to ensure that there's food for their children. We've also heard of some schools that are not even with electricity at the moment because the ECG has disconnected power to them. Why all this?
Yes, we have received reports of some schools having that challenge, and then I know the ministry has taken over, and then definitely would be resolved.
How many schools are with that power as we speak?
I do not have the data now. There are not many, just a few of them. I'll take the figures and then let you know in our next interview.
So why have we not been able to overcome the challenge of schools not having enough food such that parents would have to come in here?
Kindly come again. I didn't get you. Did
I'm
you talk
asking,
about electricity or food?
Well, you've dealt with electricity that government has taken over. What it means is that there has been an accumulation of debt, and that's why ECG has disconnected the power. So there's a problem. You've assured that government is working on it. I'm asking that why have we not been able to deal with the issue of feeding such that parents will not have to see that there's a challenge or there's a need for them to come in here to help? That's why we find ourselves in this situation, even in the first place.
I know currently the schools have been supplied with food staff and all of that. So now I know that I have not personally heard of any particular school that is reporting of a feeding challenge. They raised the issue some time ago, and quickly the ministry intervened. And so, as I speak with you, that issue has been resolved. That is the most important thing.
So if parents should withdraw their support now, are we sure the feeding for the student will be sufficient?
Of course, and that is also not to say that parents should withdraw whatever support. I mean, if they've been doing it, so they can continue. Again, what we do not want is the fact that parents, students should be levied, or parents, students, what we do not want is that schools should not levy their students. Yes.
Apart from the WAS headmistress, how many headmasters and headmistresses have also been interdicted on similar charges?
In the past or now?
I mean now, as we speak.
Oh, now the cases or the complaints that we receive, our initial investigations revealed otherwise. That indeed, yes, they were taking money, but the parents were doing it voluntarily. It wasn't compulsory. Some of the schools, it was any amount that you can even pay. Some were paying 500, others were paying 50 cedis, 100 cedis. So based on your strength, your financial strength, so that we had to leave them. It was only once that we established that indeed they had actually levied them. It was compulsory and it was a must for all of them, and that if students do not pay, there was a consequence.
All right, Cassandra, I'm grateful to you for joining us here on the Pulse on the Journey channel. She speaks for the Ghana Education Service, Cassandra Chum and Poffo there.